So I'm really excited for the DCU. I like the directors, I like the stories, but more importantly, I love the timeline of it. Unlike most other cinematic universes, we're not beginning things at the very beginning. The DCU has had heroes for a very long time. We are just jumping into this universe in a specific time. James Gunn has said himself that in this universe, metahumans have been a thing for a very long time. But it's only now that the number of metahumans has jumped dramatically. And that fact has made me very curious. I was thinking, what could the history of this universe look like? As in what events and what other characters have already existed within it? So, let's try to answer that question. I like to think that in the DCU, the timeline is divided within different ages, just like within comics. So I have divided the DCU timeline into 3 different ages. The first is the Golden Age. This took place around the beginning of the 20th century and would end the same time World War II did, so around 1945. And this era would be mainly defined by one singular group, the Justice Society of America. This group would consist of mainly OG superheroes, but I think the 3 biggest ones would be Alan Scott as the first Green Lantern, Jay Garrick as the first Flash, and potentially Wonder Woman. Now this part I'm not entirely sure yet. I have 2 visions for Wonder Woman, and the first one is here. She was a very old warrior who came first to prominence during World War II, and she was a leader of the Justice Society of America. And this group mainly fought the Axis powers, and of course won. There would obviously also be other heroes as well, such as other members of the JLA, but of course other heroes who are just not part of the group, like for example G.I. Robot. But the Golden Age would mainly end when the JLA ends, so around 1945. And the reasoning why could be many things. They could go as a similar reason like the New Frontier, or it could be anything else. But the group disbands, and this version of Wonder Woman disappears, to only reappear in the modern age. Now the next era is the Silver Age. This is from 1945 to let's say 2000. In this new age, there aren't that many new heroes, but they're becoming more popular. I think this era should be defined by 2 heroes mainly, and those would be the successors of the Flash and Green Lantern. Those being Barry Allen and Hal Jordan. Perhaps not Hal Jordan because he is in the new Lanterns TV show, and that would make him around 80, 90? So perhaps he existed a bit later than 1945, around 1970s, and that's how he's able to be in Lanterns, but whatever. Now to be clear, these 2 would not be part of any group, as they're more of solo adventure heroes. They might still know of each other, but they mainly stay in their own cities, having their own adventures. And I do think this era would be a very nice period piece to base TV shows and games on. There would be other smaller heroes. Again, this age doesn't have that many heroes, but I do think the biggest difference compared to the Golden Age is that in the Silver Age, there is now a rise of supervillains. You know, your Sinestros or your Reverse Flashes. Individual metas for heroes to defeat. Now again, there aren't that many of them, but they're rising in numbers and power. I think this brings us to the next age, which, for lack of a better term, would be the Dark Age, between the year 2000 and now. When I mean Dark Age, I mean there's a shift in the mentality of how heroes operate. Due to the Silver Age, people have gotten an interest with superheroes. They think they're fun and campy and everything, and companies have noticed that. So now in this new digital age, companies are able to hire heroes and market them for their own profit. Something similar to The Boys. And I do think that's what we see in Superman. Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific all seem to be working for Lord Tech. Perhaps they're sponsored by them, and they make money off their likeness. Who knows? But I think the second biggest difference is again their methods. There are other vigilante groups, but they become a lot more cynical and dangerous. They shoot first and ask questions later. And this new cynical era is becoming a problem because more and more metahumans exist. And they're all following this cynical type mentality. I think a good example would be the Authority. They seem to be a group which wants to save the world at any cost. And they don't care how many people they have to kill in the process. And I do think that the second person to embody this mentality would be Batman. Now hold on, I don't think Batman should be violent, but I do think he would be in his first few years. Now obviously, this era isn't very hopeful. It's very corporate and dark. And I think in this moment, here's where Superman comes in. Superman is 30, and has been operating for some time now. But I do think in this movie, he should become a much bigger deal, as in a rising star, if you will. He's not corporate, he's not getting paid, he's just doing this because he wants to. He just wants to help people because it's the right thing to do. And in this very cynical era, the people begin to really resonate with that. This makes him much more popular, like one of the biggest heroes in the world. This new mindset becomes very popular with new metahumans, especially now, because now they were growing in such numbers that they were becoming a problem. But now, all these new metahumans are becoming more like Clark. And I think this would be a brand new age. Almost every popular hero we know now would exist here. So Superman, Supergirl, Crypto, the Bat family, which are becoming a lot more hopeful. Perhaps even Wonder Woman would come back or appear for the first time. Like I said before, I envision two different routes for Diana. Those being her World War II origins as a immortal warrior, or perhaps a second version, one where she is in her mid-20s and for the first time appearing to the world. I do think they should do the second one because the first option, where she is a World War II fighter, already happened in the DCEU. So this new Diana would be young and hopeful and appear to the world as a brand new superhero. And in this brand new hopeful age, Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman would form the Justice League, a fighting force which helps everyone. Now how this league could look like could be its own video, so I won't speak on it here. But yeah, that is a rough timeline of DCU. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Peace.